Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to another fine episode of Record Breakers. I'm Petey Rape, your man with no plan. Here with me is my quorum of record reviewers, my friends. We have none other than Drew.
Hey.
We got Patrick.
Hey.
And we got Brett.
Hey, everybody.
We're here once again to talk about music together. Gathered as we are, huddled together again with music as our comfort. The provider of this week's music is none other than Drew. Drew, what do you got for us this week?
Well, this is a band I found a while ago. Their single Mama's Boy came to my ear, and it was a fun little tune, and I looked them up, and they were really sort of up my alley. Duo from Montreal. I believe they count themselves as the only successful Arab-Jewish partnership ever, which I think is fair to say. Stage names Dave One and P Thug. This is their electro-funk synthy album, White Women.
White Women. Interesting name, interesting band, and a band that I know fairly well. I'll have to ask Patrick. Patrick. I'll zig. I'll zag. You would expect me to zig. I'll zag. Patrick, what were your expectations coming into this album?
This was my feel-good album of the summer. This was a regular play in my car, driving wherever I was going. And just sort of any time I needed to listen to something that was like pure fun. Sort of it was this and Duck Sauce, who are frighteningly closely related since Dave One's brother is half of Duck Sauce, and they've remixed some songs and whatnot. So it was one of those. It got talked about a lot when it came out by a bunch of my music-y people I follow on Twitter. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna listen to these Chromeo folks because sometimes you just need a little pop music in your life, and they're the pop music in my life.
On some level, also, this carries over the narrative from our interspecies wrestling episode of Fanny Pack Wrestling in that Montreal is weird. Brett, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Montreal is weird. I didn't know that this came from there. I also did not know this thing until a week ago. I don't know that I have ever walked into some Chromeo. And if you had asked me to describe what my thoughts of Chromeo was a week ago, it would have been horribly awful and not anything like this. So it was a fresh taste for Brett.
Drew, what would be the themes and elements that make up this record?
Well, Chromeo got together for the express purpose of just making fun songs. They both admit that they weren't trying to change the world. They weren't trying to create something that was automatically the newest or the freshest or way different than anybody had heard before. They just wanted to create something fun, something danceable. They described this album as, and I'm quoting here, Larry David funk, something that was, they say, neurotically romantic. The lyrics are just sort of poppy, love-torn lyrics. The electro-funk, the bass and the synth in this is where I think they really drive it home. There's a lot of really cool synth melodies throughout. There's a lot of fun, like, thumping bass lines. This, to me, is sort of an 80s... Chromeo in general is just an 80s sort of sounding band, but, like, with new sensibilities, with new ideas. But they still have that 80s synth pop sound. Very obvious when they go on a show. We were discussing it before we hit record on Live at Daryl's house from Hall & Oates. They were on there, and it was very much obvious that they were happy to be in the house of the Hall & Oates and such like that. It was very cool for them. So it's that sort of feel. If you know your sort of like 80s funk sort of feeling stuff in your synth poppy stuff from that era, you'll be comfortable here, but there's enough new here and enough new take on it that I think it's a lot of fun.
Patrick, what were the themes and elements that caught your attention when you first heard this record?
So I love 80s synth pop, like new wavy synth pop stuff. It is one of my sort of favorite, like I can just make a Pandora station out of it and be happy all day kind of things. It's a good sound. And what Chromeo does really well is it sounds familiar, but it doesn't sound like it's from the 80s. It just sounds like it's like referencing, I guess would be the way to describe it. Like it draws an influence from it. It's paying homage to it, but it's definitely got a polish of modern dance pop on top of that. And I think that kind of works for them. Dave One's voice is like silky smooth. Like he just wants to sing you into making out with a lady. Like that is, I think his goal is like this whole album's like to make out to. Yes, Brett, an homage to the 80s. An homage.
Homage, I believe.
And P Thug
I'm gonna
rocks
do
out
homage.
with a talk box on a keyboard, which is pretty cool because talk boxes are nifty.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like really good with a talk box. Like he's like what Peter Frampton did to the talk box with a guitar. He's out there doing with a keyboard.
Mm-hmm. Brett, a little birdie told me that you had quite a bit to say about this record and Chromeo in general.
Well, I mean, I may or may not. We are living in the new 1980s. Only because I think everybody thinks that the 1980s is the silliest thing that they can like recently remember, and it's the time where everybody wants to be silly about stuff for the sake of being silly. But like in an era where every pop star is doing electronic dance music underneath their pop music, and doing it with world-class musicians doing that other than the lyrics part, it's kind of neat to have a couple guys that play around with synthesizers and bass guitars and talk boxes going through synths with the little pitch wheel and all that fun junk. But this is I was surprised at how well they do what they do, even though they could get away with not being that good at that. Especially with I'm not surprised. The guy who brought us this album's a bassist. Go figure. There's some bass in here that's pretty top notch. Like I'm talking that somebody's listened to some Parliament knows how to play some bass in this album. Like there's some of that going on. But like the way that they bring the synth and the swells, there's seriously some Steve Miller swells in this. Like there's totally like I will bring those up when we go track by track, but there are some very little nuggets in this that were just the fit and finish were better than they should have been.
Mm-hmm. And I have to ask you, speaking of tracks, Drew, what are some of the key tracks to key in on in this record?
To me, there are quite a few that really give a cool feel to it. Some honorable mentions that I won't go too much into, but like I said, Come Alive, Play the Fool. Those ones really sort of pushed a lot to me, like what the Chromeo sound is, which is like that tight 80s sound. The Jealous, the opening track. I'm going to do the thing that I always do, or that Record Breakers always does. Go with the opening track. I Ain't With It. It's a lighter bass groove. It's not as dark. It's not as like heavy thuddy, but it's this light bass groove, this fun synth melody. It's super poppy, and it opens up super, super dance heavy. Like you'd be able to dance around the club with like just neon Dayglow lights going. It's, to me, perfect to open up. You picture yourself in that 80s club. Oh, that's adorable. Old 45s, which I believe at the time of recording might be their newest single. I'm not 100% sure. It's a bit darker of a tone comparatively to Jealous, and it's a bit later in the record, but it's still got that grooviness to it. It's still very, very dance heavy. It's a slow pace, and it slows the dance down a little bit. It's not a slow dance song, but it's a slower, more like almost sultry verse to it. And then the chorus hits, and it's got this really, like, weird, to me, uplifting, nostalgic, like, sort of feel to it. Like, you would... the way I would almost describe it is, like, that chorus feels like something that wouldn't be out of place in, like, a Brat Pack movie. Like, that's just what it feels like to me. And then going along again with the referencing 80s movies to what the sounds like of the song to me is Frequent Flyer. It's got that funky synth right at the beginning that to me reminds me of Beverly Hills Cop. It's really, really tight from beginning to end, this entire album. But this, like, Frequent Flyer, Tawatha Agi, I believe her name is. I'm probably butchering that, and I don't care, because she deserves, like, her vocals throughout the tracks, because she has a couple of other guest vocal spots, but her vocal, like, run, like, in the chorus just is really, really cool. It kind of punches the chorus through and, like, really adds something fun to the track.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, what would be some of the tracks that caught your attention?
I want to go talk about Frequent Flyer, which has one of the most impressively programmed, like, synth bass and drum parts I've ever heard in anything. The entire thing is incredibly groovy, but is almost not at all on a downbeat. Like, almost all of it is offbeat, not where you would expect it, and yet it's incredibly easy to, like, fall into a groove of. It's probably, like, the most musically impressive bit of the record for me, because it sounds like something that shouldn't work. It sounds like it shouldn't resolve, but it does. And it's also just a really, really fun song. And that's sort of, I think, what Chromeo does best is, like, really fun music. The opener, Jealous, I Ain't With It, is one of the strongest tracks on the record. It is a great song to just sing on the way home from work and feel better about the world. And it feels really good. Like I said, Dave's vocals are super, super smooth, and he's got a fairly good high range, but without being, without doing that Steven Tyler shrieky thing. He just, it's very smooth, it's very relaxed. At no point do you feel like he's screaming at you. He just kind of, he just serenades you throughout the record. And Old 45s just feels really, really good. Like, it's I guess the only way I would describe it is it's kind of timeless. Because, I mean, it's sort of thematically and musically, it kind of feels like an older song than it is, but it still feels kind of fresh and fun, which is sort of what they do really well.
Mm-hmm. Brett, what would be some of the tracks that caught your attention?
Okay, the song Over Your Shoulder. There is some wordsmithing in that song. It has some lyrics that make me giggle. It has a very, very funky bass line and electric piano track over that. And it also is the song that has the Steve Miller Band swells from Fly Like an Eagle. But
I literally wrote that in my notes. Steve Miller Band synthy parts are awesome. Fly Like an Eagle.
And they also like the lyrics. Let's go back to the lyrics. Like, here's a small sample. And even though you've got small breasts, but to me they look the best, I confess, I want to go home and get you undressed. Like, okay, and that's just a small little dose of, like, all the songs are kind of long too. They give themselves enough time to sort of mature, and that's just one song that I was into. Sexy Socialite. It opens up like, okay, am I going to get into this? There's some, like, really cool bass, but after about 30 seconds, like, the synth hits, and then you go into, like, this Double Dragon-esque galloping bass line where it's like holy crap, like, and it goes back and forth. It, like, completely switches from one kind of song to another. And lyrically, this band doesn't cover anything that's not been covered in popular music over the past 100 years, but they probably did it pretty well. I'll give them the I guess the maple leaf, the golden maple leaf, which, by the way, I need to bring up. This entered at number 6 in the Canadian album charts by selling 3,500 copies. I want to, like, do I need to be a Canadian musician and have, like, some friends, like, social engineer me some, like, that? I was curious. I know I'm not going to get any answers, but 3,500 copies kind of sounds like.
It sounds like a low.
It sounds very achievable.
Yeah, and Wikipedia. I didn't check my sources, but
How many people are in Canada?
I mean,
3,600.
They debuted number 11 on the Billboard 200, selling 16,000 copies.
Yeah, so
Album sales may, in fact, actually be dead.
yeah, I mean that just welcome to the future, everybody.
Physical's dead. It's all about the digital.
I for one, welcome our digital streaming overlords.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, now let's bring it back around. Patrick, what would be kind of your thoughts on the album overall, conclusively?
I think Chromeo does a really, really good job of not taking themselves too seriously, but I think they take making music really seriously. Like they're good musicians. They don't just make like cheesy pop music, but it is cheesy pop music at its core. It's just done so well that you can't help but notice. I just want to like point out Dave One, the lead singer, writer of the lyrics that Brett so affectionately referred to, has a PhD in French literature from Columbia. He's a PhD in French literature from Columbia University. That man is so much better than I will ever be, and I hate it. This like he gets to sing like that, he gets to make this awesome stuff, and he's smart. I hate people like that. But he's awesome because of it. And that it is such a ridiculous sort of premise for a group. Like just even looking at the cover of the album, looking at you look at the stuff they sell. They have a IROC Z themed long sleeve t-shirt that looks like it belongs on a race team in the 80s. Like they sell the most ridiculous gear. I think they're having a really good time making music and being Chromeo and being something.
It is back to the point of, I think, the same reason, I'll go back to referencing Fanny Pack, the same reason we love Chikara. They take their craft seriously, but they don't take themselves seriously.
They're on tour for Fancy Footwork to more punctuate the point of not taking yourself seriously. Their keyboard stands on stage were actually two women's legs, like mannequin legs, going out and holding the keyboards up. Like, that's just what it was. If there's any question ever about them taking themselves seriously, look at those pictures. It's ridiculous and amazing.
Mm-hmm. Brett, what would be your conclusion about the album overall?
It's Canadian. It's pretty funky, and it's super self-aware. All of those things get the Brett Hibbard thumbs up. Like they did every one of those things very well. It could have gone wrong horribly. It could I have not been burnt out on this kind of music out there, and I hope I get more of this. This is the kind of thing that I do this show to find, because now I can make my buddies have to listen to it.
Can I add one final thought?
Yes.
Can we just of bands we've talked about on this show, the best tour ever would be Chromeo, Bad Rabbits, and Duck Sauce. That would be the best tour ever. I would follow that around the country.
I actually
follow Fish.
I actually told
that could happen.
Bad Rabbits. I told Bad Rabbits, I was like, you guys need to go tour with Chromeo. That's just what you need to do, because I think it would be brilliant. Duck Sauce would be the good opening. That would actually work very well.
Yeah, that would be the best tour ever. You would go home, and you wouldn't know what to do afterward. You'd be.
No, you would have to go home with somebody.
Yeah, you would have to go home with somebody.
Exactly.
You probably would have to go to a bathroom with somebody halfway through every set. Just get that out of your system.
Drew, what would be your conclusion about the album overall?
This is one of those things where, like Patrick said, it's a pop record, but it's not a pop record. Pop has gotten a bad rap in some circles, and I think that's not fair. There's a lot of people who do pop sounding music. You have your Elton Johns and stuff, and it's gotten a bad rap. It's gotten this teeny bopper sort of thing to it, and that's not what it really is. This is the synth pop music. This is the sort of pop music that I can really dig. It's everybody said it. They don't take themselves Seriously. They are self-aware that they are a band doing music that's essentially 80s club music. But they're smart guys, and they know how to make a good tune. So, I mean, if you can listen to this and not start tapping your toe a little bit, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just, to me, it's, Patrick brought it up. To me, I told Bad Rabbits on Twitter, like, y'all need to go on a tour with Chromeo, because I knew that they would see it. I'm not 100% sure Chromeo reads all their social media stuff. I know Bad Rabbits does.
I want to tell you a little thing about Chromeo and their social media. So when I first got this record, I had my windows down in my car. I pulled in the driveway. My mom happened to be in the driveway. She goes, "Are you listening to Justin Timberlake do Dick in a Box?" Like, and that was the vibe she got from it. And I quoted her on Twitter and referenced Chromeo in it, and they totally retweeted my mother. Someone who's running Chromeo's Twitter found the comparison to Justin Timberlake and The Lonely Island to be appropriate.
Yes.
but it's a fun, like, Chromeo's a fun band. This is a fun record. I think it deserves a listen. And I think it's really well made. And if you're having a supremely bad day and you're looking to drive home from work on something that will make you smile, I think you can't do much better than this, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on a complete side note, it's not a bad record to test out your brand new Sonos Play 1 on.
Ah, did you? Nice. Keep showing off
the product placement. All right. But yeah, it is a fantastic record, fantastically fun record. Yes. What do you have?
If we want to get if Sonos is out there listening and wants to sponsor us, I would love some of your products. I'm not above being a shill.
Yes. No, not me.
That's the best way to do things. Yeah, I don't mind getting your stuff.
Yes. Sonos.
Give us your stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, it is a fun record. And that's our thoughts on it. Of course, we get now to our main event of the evening. Well, we've all been waiting for. We get to our haiku reviews. I'm gonna start with Patrick. What is your haiku review?
Something familiar and something fresh and funky. Pretty damn brilliant.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go next. Retro sound revived with a quirky hipster slant, well executed. Brett, what is your haiku?
I want a Kirky well execute. Never mind. Okay, shitloads of the funk with a large dose of silly. Baby making tunes.
Mm-hmm. And last but not least, Drew, what is your haiku?
It's the only time the number is going to be referenced, and it's not to the book, I think. The funky bass groove fills the feet with dance moves. 1984.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic experience with Chromeo. You gotta love Chromeo. Bunch of crazy dudes. And of course, last one. Of course, we have to add Montreal is weird. It really is.
Yes, it
DJM is right.
Google it.
Yes. And that's it. That's our thoughts on Chromeo. Go listen to Chromeo. Go dance. Dance out there. Go sit, dance in your underwear in your room to some funky music. And of course, you can do that by accessing it on our Spotify playlist. It'll be there along with all of our other music that we've reviewed for the show, including the next record. We're going to have a special guest next week. We're back to having a guest. We're going to have our friend, Geeko Suave himself, Don Jaime, Tensor guy. He's going to bring us an interesting record. He's going to bring us Queen's A Kind of Magic. Get your Highlander on, if you will. It's going to be a fun time with Don Jaime. A fun time will be had by all. Getting some Freddie Mercury on. But that's it. You can find us all over the internet. Patrick is at The Swagger. Brett is at Hibbity Bibbard, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew's at X4X. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers, number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com, Revelli.net. Does it? iTunes, Stitcher, everything else. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.